Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Honey for the Soul. I'm Clarissa, one of your hosts, and this is
Alyssa.
All right, well, today our topic is about our experience as college students. So, you want to.
College is hard. Period. We're sophomores this year, 2019, class of 2021, hopefully. And so we've experienced 2 years basically here in at Cal, whatever we are.
Okay.
And we just want to give some advice for any freshmen or sophomores that are incoming to a university.
I guess not just only them, but just to give all of you guys like insight into what being a college student is like, especially like if you're thinking about college and you're in high school and just you don't know your options yet and you just want to know like what should I expect as a college student, so I guess let's just start off with some advice.
Your classes here or anywhere, I feel, will not be the same as AP or high school classes in general.
Yeah, your high school classes don't really prepare you for college classes. Like, the whole system is just completely different. Like, for college classes, there's not really busy work, which is what I consider high school work to be. Because more or less, if it's not busy work, it's actual work that you'll need.
Yeah.
So here, as a college student, it's more like you have assignments and you have exams, and that's all your grade is. So if you miss an assignment, if you don't do so well on an exam, it's like it can really affect your...
It's the end.
Okay. I wouldn't go so far as to say that.
Not like that, but there's no remakes, there's no retakes of any test. It will affect your grade.
Yeah. And that's not to say that you should be so stressed out about that.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, we've talked about this in a previous podcast, but just because that now you know that there's more pressure because your class is just solely on those assignments and on those exams, it just means that you have to work a little harder. It's not as easy as it was in high school where it's like you can chillax after doing your work, you're done. Here it's more like you have to continuously either be studying or like just keeping up with the class. Like if you don't consciously keep up with your classes, you'll forget that you even had a due date.
Yeah, it's very easy to fall behind.
Yeah.
And if you do an assignment before the deadline, like way before, turn it in, because people always forget to turn in their assignments.
Oh yeah.
Because they're like, "Oh, I finished it. I'll turn it in before." And you freaking
Okay. Just continue. It's not gonna happen.
You missed the deadline because you were so confident in yourself.
You know what it is? I've actually done that before, and I always say that like, hey, I'll are you good? Jeez. Like I'll always say that I'll just turn it in right before.
Yeah.
Like the day before or the day of, a few minutes before, and I'll forget because it's like as a college student you have so much things going on. It's not just academics anymore. It's you have a social life. You have like your personal life, and then you have like events along with college classes, and then if you have work, that's also another thing you have to consider. So it's like you have all of these things going on in your life, and if you don't turn it in on time, it's like, well, there goes that class, And it's not to say that yes, these classes will be hard, but for example, in Cal, you can do the grading option, which is you'll get it for a grade, a letter grade, or you can just get it as a pass, no pass. And in that case, if you do take a class for a pass no pass type thing, it's you just have to pass the class. Just get a C. And it won't affect your GPA. It'll just say on your transcript that you passed or you didn't pass the class. You know, so I guess that's one piece of advice. And then another is, you know, we did kind of mention this, but it's like you are the creator of your own time. It's not like high school where you're spending 8 hours in your day, and that's just classes alone, just doing classes, and then you have extracurriculars after. Here it's more you get to pick your own schedule, you get to pick your own classes, you get to pick the time slots and the discussion section you want to go to, because some classes have discussion section, and then you get to pick days when you don't have class, and then you can also do what else is there? Well, work. If you have work study that you plan to do, you know, there's so many factors within scheduling as a college student that it's like you have to realize that there's also a lot of downtime. So, like for me, freshman year, I didn't realize the amount of downtime I was gonna have because I picked my schedule where it was like I had like 3 classes or 4 classes in total, and then they were spread out between Monday through Thursday, and then I didn't have class Friday, and then I had like 3 or 4 hour breaks in between, so it was there's just so much in between time that I just didn't know what to do with myself. Like, what do? It's not like in class where you're just there constantly on campus. Both of us lived in the dorm, so we could have gone back home, and we did go home like after class. And so we were just in our room and just like, what do we do? What am I supposed to do? And so I didn't realize what I should be doing with my time until like a few weeks in. And that's when I got to know my schedule and understand like, what can I do with this amount of time? Can I take naps? Can I do my assignments? Can I do readings? Can I do this and this? You know, so just realize that there's a lot of time that will be free in your schedule if you plan it out that way, you know.
Also, this is like a note-taking advice. When a teacher or a professor asks you to read readings, take notes on them, whether it's highlighting or actually writing in the margins or whatever, or even making a Google Docs with the readings, because if they ask questions about it on a test, or, you know, you just have to know the information for something in the class, you don't have to reread the whole thing. You can just get the main points from all of the readings that you did, instead of having to waste your time again looking at the same readings, passages, whatever.
And just saying, these readings aren't just like 5 pages. No, these teachers or professors, when they give readings, it's like 40 pages, you know, front and back in very small font, and they're dense.
No pictures either.
Sometimes there will be pictures, which we're always grateful for, but most of the time there's no pictures, and it's really dense and hard to understand. So do yourselves a favor and just write notes on it, you know, and just get the main idea, and so you don't have to read it again.
Another thing is, in college, it's very tempting to skip class because you're too lazy, you're too tired, something. I highly recommend you skip class as little as possible. Because last year, second semester in college, I skipped math class every day that we had math. It was like 2 or 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
And I never went.
Same.
Because, well, first I didn't like the teacher, so that kind of took part in why I didn't go to class. And I kind of saw the effect that it had on my grade and what I learned. Because even if the class is recorded and online,
Mm-hmm.
it's different versus being in person, because at home when you're watching lecture, you can get distracted easily. You know, it's on your computer, you can go on different websites, play games, whatever.
That's not to say that we didn't watch lecture. We watched lecture. We actually tried to do the homework. We did the homework. It's not like we just completely gave up on the class. We tried to go to class, but it's just we just didn't like how he taught, and it was just so difficult to understand him as a teacher and what he expected from us students that I was just, and I think this goes for you too, that we were just basically turned off from going to his class. And yes, that did affect us. And my God, I don't know how the heck we passed. But his class was just so different. And I guess is another piece of advice, which is there will be professors that you hate. And they could be the most nicest person. They can be a kind, understanding person. But they just suck as a teacher, as a professor. And you have to realize that in those situations, you kind of just have to do what you got to do. You just got to make the best of that situation and just power through it. Or if you're still early on in the semester, try to drop the class and switch to another class. But if you're already like 3/4 or like half of the way in and you can't switch out anymore, you just have to power through it and just, as much as possible, find people within the class who can help you and just, you know, who understands the material.
Yeah.
And can help you.
Also, if you're taking like a math class or a stats class, you can watch videos online on YouTube, which are very helpful in my opinion. Sometimes the YouTube teachers teach better than the actual professors, and it's easier to understand and comprehend the information that they're giving you because it's I feel like it's in a more personal setting, and also it's on your time, and you're not being rushed because, you know, the lectures are only like an hour to an hour and a half most of the time. And some professors will speed through very difficult and important topics for the rest of the class.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you need a little more help on the difficult subjects in the class, you can always go on YouTube. Or I don't really recommend Khan Academy because I just have a bias against them, you know. I think there's better teachers on YouTube besides Khan Academy.
I guess it's just your preference.
Yeah.
Your preference is you don't like Khan Academy. I think it's a hit or miss with me with Khan Academy. More or less, I do agree though. Videos do help, and I just realized that now. Videos are helping me with stats. But even then, it's just that stat class that we have right now is just so difficult. And
it's horrendous.
It is horrendous. And I think once again we're just at that point in the semester where it's like, if it goes in, great. If it doesn't go in, oh well, let's just hope for the best and we pass this class. You know, and that goes again to say, as a student, if you're incoming freshman, you have to realize that your mentality about how you study, how you are as a student, all these things will change. If you were the type of student that was like, I need to get straight A's, I need to be this and this student, I need to set high goals for myself, realize that you will not always make those. College is a place where it's like, it's ups and downs. A lot of ups and also a lot of downs. And you can't always expect that, you know, your classes are going to be nice to you, because some classes are just that difficult, and it could just be that you're not cut out for that class, you know? So you have to realize that some classes will be easy, some will be hard, but you still got to power through them, especially if they're needed for your major.
Also, when you're buying books and you're an incoming freshman, I think it's you should email the professor to say what books I need if there's no book list. And if there is a book list online and you find a book from like a third party like Cheggs or Facebook, if people are selling it, you should always ask your professor which edition they want, because it's very important that you get the same or similar edition, especially if you have homework from the edition that they're asking. You should get the same book. And also you should look on other websites and don't go straight to the store, like the bookstores on campus, because they're more expensive, they're full price. Sometimes they don't even give you an option to rent it, so you have to buy the expensive book. So I would just recommend looking on Facebook, Chegs, what's another one? Or you can even look online if there's links.
Or even thrift stores.
Yeah, that too.
Bookstores, just any place that sells books for much cheaper, because you don't want to be paying $200 to $300 for a textbook that
you're only
gonna need once, because your class may be semester based or quarter based, and you're only gonna be using that for a few months. And second, you realize that these books are heavy and you gotta be lugging them around. And third, there could be online options that are even free that you just need to look up on Google or whatever. And four, gosh, there's so many points to this, but it's like, some classes I've gotten away with not having to read any of the books.
Some classes will give you an optional reading, like a textbook, and sometimes it's not clear on the book list that they give you. So it's always best to email your professor after looking at the book list and after looking at all the options where you can get the books, just to make sure that you're getting the right ones.
Another thing we can advise to all of you is get friends. Like, by means of get friends, it's like within your classes, you can already tell if you're going to struggle in this class or whatnot. But in every class, you should aim to have at least a few people within that class, so that if you need people to study with, you have people. If you need people who will take notes for you because you're not going to be able to be there, you have people. You always have to have a backup. That's not to say that if your class has course capture where the class is recorded, you shouldn't still have friends within that class. You should still have friends within that class, because, you know, these friends of yours, it's like you're building friendships. Long-lasting college friendships is one, and, you know, they could help you within the future. Like, you guys could help each other. Like, if this other person has a job opportunity or something like that, they can help you out. Or like in Alyssa's case, we actually got the apartment that we're in right now because she made friends with one of her other classmates in a class and recommended this place.
Yeah, because she lived here and then she was moving out, and then she told me that the people who were gonna live in here after were moving out so that we can move in. So always make friends, always network, you know, it's a little scary, but it's always good to get out of your comfort zone.
And that's another thing. Yes, college is a time to explore, but one, know your limits. Always know your limits, you know. And two, that's not to say you shouldn't explore, right? Like me, I'm a very sheltered person. I like to just stay home. I'm okay with just spending the whole day at home, curled up in bed with a book. And, like, you know, if not a book, I'll be watching YouTube or Netflix. Like, I'm okay with being at home. Some people, they're okay with going out, partying, all of that. Great. But I realize that now I have to, within myself, tell myself that I need to go out, I need to go explore, I need to do things that are out of my comfort zone, because what'll happen after the 4 years, I haven't explored anything, I don't know anyone, I haven't networked with anyone, I haven't done this and this and this, and I've lost all my opportunity to explore, do things that I may or may not have wanted to do, probably may have wanted to do, you know, and I missed all of it because I was just too scared, and I would rather be in my comfort zone, you know. Let's see, what else? let's switch off now.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
This is important. Don't choose a class because it seems easy. I mean, like, you can do that, right? But what's the fun in that? I mean, it's gonna be easy. But I think you should choose something that you might not be interested in the beginning, but then you end up being interested in it. Like, for example, I took a psychology class, and I read reviews on the professor beforehand, and I was like, oh, this seems like a nice professor. But the class was actually, it was at night. It seemed kind of hard, and it kind of was because I had to do a presentation in class, and also we had a final, and we had a couple of in-class essays for that class. But the class overall was extremely fun, and I do not regret taking that class because the professor was very, very cool. His name is Armin Catterson. If y'all ever go to any of the schools he's going to, I think he's still here though, but yeah, if you ever encounter a good professor who has lasting effects on you, that's good.
I think that goes. We have another one right now. His name is Darren Zook.
Oh yes, I like him too.
It's for our Global Studies 10A class, and the class is really. He's a really good professor in that he makes things fun. You know, it isn't just. He doesn't allow phones, which I feel like is a good thing because we're more focused on what's happening, you know, in the present moment. But his class is fun in that there's information that you've never heard of before, and he makes things easier to understand. He doesn't rush through material like most professors. He takes the time for the students to just comprehend and analyze and take in all of the information. And you know, he's very understanding in that if you're still stuck and you still don't understand, if you go to his office hours, he's very easy to talk to. So I recommend him also as a professor. All right, well,
also because you forgot to, I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Okay.
But you forgot to mention that Darren doesn't allow laptops in class as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think that's important to know about college because everyone just assumes that every professor will allow laptops.
No.
That's not the case always because some of them don't allow laptops and will actually get mad at you. Like, they'll call you out in class if you have one out. And so I just recommend always bringing a notebook to the class you're going to on the first week of class because you never know.
Or even just ask your professor, like, email
ahead
him.
of time.
Yeah, ahead of time, and just ask, like, hey, are laptops okay? Are laptops not okay? What do I need exactly for this class? Just so that you're ahead and prepared.
Yeah. Also, you should read the syllabus actually before you even email your professor because some of the information will already be there, like no laptop policy, no phones policy, what book you need, and what assignments there will be before class. Sometimes there are assignments that you have to do over the break. So it's just really good to prepare yourself and look at the syllabus beforehand.
All right. This is my third try.
Okay,
we good to go? All right. So let's transition now to our experience in the dorms. All right. So for both of us, well, at least for me, I'll say it was an interesting experience in that there were good aspects and there were bad aspects. More good than bad, but you know, you still have to consider that there were some things that were
crazy.
Yeah, okay. A little crazy, yes. So, Alyssa and I dormed together our first year, and we got in
the whole year.
The whole year, and we basically moved out of the dorm after our freshman year, and now as sophomores, we're in an apartment together and we're roommates. But going back to the dorms, it was really nice. Like, moving in was nice. I was the first one to move into our room because I had early access. I think if you're part of Yeah, I think I signed up for it in one of the was it clubs, organizations,
Yeah,
one of those.
organization.
So I was able to move in before Alyssa and our other roommate, and it was interesting because you realize, or like I realized that after I moved in, just how small of a space dorms can be. If you thought that your room, whatever room you're in now, was big, it probably is probably bigger than the room that we stayed in, because there's 3 people that had to stay in a square.
Yeah, it's like 12
room
by 12, I think.
It's pretty small. There's one full bunk bed and then a bunk loft.
Yeah, with desks under.
With
2
desks underneath, and you don't really consider the fact that, like, you're living with 2 other people. If you've never lived with other people before, you have to get used to how they live, what they do. Yes, I mean, your whole purpose there is just to sleep, eat, I guess, and just study. But it's like you realize that this is your home for the next school year if you plan to dorm. So it's really important that, I guess, another piece of advice is, if you are planning to dorm and there is a classmate that you have that you know is going to the same school as you and you guys are friends, take the opportunity to dorm with one another. Because at least you know that, hey, at least you like this person and there's not another surprise that will just...
Yeah.
It's not an extra surprise, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Because with our 3rd roommate, we were very surprised.
Okay, well, yes, we were both surprised. I think it's just because it was a shock to both of us, because we've never lived with another person who's just almost the complete opposite of both of us. Like, we are very similar. We like to go out sometimes, but we also like staying in. We don't really party, if that's the right, that's the right term. We don't really party. Like, for us, our party is, we went out to eat, we got dessert, we came back home and watched a movie. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, watching a movie is probably the highlight of our week. Yeah. So with our other roommate, it was the opposite. She would party, she would drink. We don't drink.
And she would get drunk.
Yeah, she would get drunk and she'd come home early in the morning. And mind you, I'm a very, like, if I'm living with someone, I want to make sure that, like, at least they come home safe. Because if you know that your roommate likes to drink and gets drunk, but, like, they go with other people and you don't really go with them because you're not that type of person, you still want to be that type of person that's checking up on them just to make sure they get home. And I was that person. I would make sure that I would text and say, "Hey, are you okay? Are you on the way home?" Not to say that if you're crazy.
Like past a certain time.
A certain time, because you just get worried. It's like, okay, it's 2 or 3 in the morning.
Dang, she was gone at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Sometimes she would come home pretty late, and I was just like, "Are you okay? Should I be worried that you're not?" Because you're in college, things can happen, and you don't want to be that person that just doesn't care about, your roommate. You're living with this person. At some point, you're going to create this hopefully nice relationship with them, where even if you guys aren't the best of friends, you guys are still civil with each other, right? And so sometimes she'd text back and say, like, "Oh, okay, I'm fine. I'm on my way home," or something like that. And you just kind of have to realize that if you're living with someone else, you have to be more cautious of, like...
And courteous.
Yeah, be more cautious and courteous of not only your actions, but how your actions will affect
the people you're living with.
Yeah, those who you live with. In my case, I was always very cautious, because for my first year, I did not learn my lesson and took early classes. Early classes is 8 a.m. Yes, you guys you may or may not be in high school, and you think, yeah, I can take in 8 a.m. I've done that for the past 4 years. That doesn't work out in college. it's hard unless you're a morning person, but more or less you're not. You're not gonna wake up for that 8 a.m.
Or unless you sleep early, then you can wake up early.
You can. But more or less, you're probably going to sleep late, and then when you look at the time and you realize that you have 10 minutes or so to get to class, you're like, you know what? We're not going to go to class. And then you'll skip class. So I was one of those people that I wouldn't skip per se. I would try to wake up, and I did, and then realized early on that I couldn't do it, so I dropped the class. And then my next class was at 12. But you know, before when I'd have that early class, or even in our second semester when we had our 8 a.m., and it was required, I wouldn't be banging around the room. I would be courteous of my actions. If anything, I would even have my clothes ready and prepared
that's what I would do
on my desk to make sure that I wouldn't be opening drawers and cabinets and doing this and that. I would have everything prepared the night before.
Yeah.
So that morning, I wouldn't be disturbing the two sleeping ones, you know, the other roommates, because I feel that sleep is something that's so important as a college student, because we don't really sleep. We don't really have sleeping schedules. We just sleep all over the place. And for me, especially if I get woken up from my sleep and I'm startled, I'm going to be mad. Gonna be mad not the whole day per se, but I'll be a little ticked off.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially if I'm woken up in a bad way. Like someone was banging, someone was opening and closing something over and over, or someone was talking really loud in the hallway, banging their feet, something. You know, it's gonna make me irritated for the rest of the day because I started my day irritated.
And you don't want to start your day off irritated. So it's just like, you got to be courteous because, you know, you don't know your roommates that well, especially if you're just moving in. You don't know if they're the type to do the same things. Like if you bang on accident, they think you're not doing it on accident, so they'll do it to you, and then your whole year is ruined, you know? So just, it's interesting that, especially for me looking back on it now, I was very civil with my other roommate. Not the one I'm talking with currently. The other roommate. I was very...
Let's name her Lokare.
Okay. I was very civil with her. And it's not that I had bad blood or anything. Like, we weren't fighting or anything. It was just, I know my place. She knows her place. We both just live, you know, courteously to one another. And I know that I had issues freshman year because I didn't personally ever say this, but I wasn't really good at communication, and usually within the first few weeks of living in the dorm, the RAs will tell you to make like a roommate agreement. They'll make you sign it, make you talk about it, and it's basically what you guys allow within your room. Like the agreements, the rules that you will stick by for the rest of the year. Right?
Yeah.
And it was my fault that I would always basically clean up after her. And I don't know if she realized or if not, probably not, but I would clean up after her. I would always be throwing the trash. Like, there would be no
give
or take. You know what I mean?
What?
Like, if I did something, next time you do it.
Yeah.
So it's like a give or take situation type thing.
Sure.
So, you know, within our roommate now, we actually do that, and we are able to talk because I realized that you need to have the communication. And that's another thing, is communication is key. Especially with people that you've never lived with, that you're going to live with. You need to have that communication there, because without it, your life and the life within that room is just going to be a mess.
Also, you need to know when to tell someone something. If it's bothering you and your other roommate, or even if it's just bothering one of you, you need to tell the other person.
Yeah.
Because if you don't tell them, or if no one tells them, then they're not going to know what's up. if you don't tell the person, it's that issue that you have with them is going to continue if they do not fix what they are doing wrong to you or the other person. So you always need to have that communication where it's you're being honest about something, but also you can't say it in a way that they will feel like
They're
you're
being
ganging
attacked.
up on them.
Yeah, you're being attacked.
Yeah, like this one time I had to ask Locaret to take out her package boxes because she had like 4 or 5 of them on the floor and they were obstructing my way to the closet, which is also on her. My closet was next to hers, so it was like it was also her closet that was being blocked. So I had to tell her like, hey, can you take out the trash? I mean, yeah, take out the trash because it was part of the trash because I'm kind of tripping on it. And then she did take it out. And it just, you know, it depends on the way you deliver the message. If you come out aggressively, like, can you take out the trash?
Yeah.
It's not going to work like that. You have to be nice because you don't want someone being aggressive towards you.
Yeah. And realize that if you are aggressive and you, like, it can be on purpose or you can do it accidentally, but realize that if you come out to your roommate as aggressive, it's coming back at you. And you don't know how they're gonna do it, and you don't even know what type of roommate you have. We've been listening to a lot of stories right now where they have roommates and their roommate is crazy. So you don't know what type of person you're living with. So you don't wanna, you don't want that monster or that beast within them to just come out. So as much as possible, you know, if you're irritated and bothered so much, take a breather. And then after that breather, then talk to whoever is causing the issue nicely with them and resolve it. You know. And if need be, remind them of the rules. Remind each other of the rules that you first established so that, you know, it's like a friendly reminder like, hey, we said this and this in the beginning of the semester or the beginning of the year. Let's actually start doing it so we don't have issues like this again. You know. Another thing that was interesting is eating within the dorms. Specifically, we were lucky enough to have
the microwave and fridge. Well, like, you have to rent it. But yeah, we had the microwave and fridge, which was very convenient.
It's very convenient, but also no, there are do's and don'ts about the fridge and microwave situation. Like, if you know your food is
perishable and smelly.
First off, if it's smelly and you put that in the microwave, open the window.
Open the window, open the door, air out the whole entire room because that room is tiny. There's no ventilation besides the window. So you need to open the room.
If there is no window for your dorm, open the door. Have a fan and just fan it out and then spray like Lysol or something. You know? And then if in the fridge, you know your stuff is perishable, know when to take it out of the fridge. Because the fridge that we had is just a mini fridge. And you're sharing a mini fridge with 3 people. So if you have perishable stuff in there, it could affect your other roommate's food. And that's a no-no. Because...
And the smell of the fridge.
Yeah, the smell is one thing, but also the fact is, food is not cheap. Okay, if you don't have a meal plan and you're buying food, if your roommate's food is destroyed because of a perishable item that was yours, just know that you gotta pay for that meal that they just lost. Because, like, food is expensive, you know.
I just want to give a story on Locaret. So one time, she had a clear glass bottle with milk inside. And I think she got it from the dining hall. Like, the milk was from the dining hall. She was about the glass thing. And she put it in the fridge, left it there for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, possibly. And then me and Clarissa we take it out of the fridge, right? The milk was separated. It was already yellowing and it was like chunky, okay? She left it in there. We put it back. And then that same day when we looked at it, it was gone. Okay? It was gone. The milk was gone.
We don't know if she drank that or not. But I think it's also our bad that we were like, you know what? We'll just put it back in and she can deal with it. Yes, that's her stuff. She should deal with it. But it's also, dang, if that is gone and it's bad, just throw it.
I think she ate it. Because there was that one time that I also looked at the milk and it was a little chunky.
Yeah.
I think it was even like the day before, right? Mm-hmm. The day before we looked at the milk, she had cereal and drank the milk, obviously.
I don't know. Oh gosh, I can't. When we saw that, we were just appalled. And it's just, you don't want to have crazy stories like that within your roommate or dorm experience, you know what I mean? Like, you want your year, whichever year it is you decide to dorm, you just want to have good roommate experiences. Yeah, it's just, we can go on and on about our roommate experience and the negatives, but there's also positives. Like, me and Alyssa know more about each other now than when we did after graduating high school, because we lived with one another. We got to learn about each other's likes and dislikes more, and our friendship has grown past the normal, like, there's stages of friendship. We're at a bigger, not bigger stage, but like, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, there's good and bad things with dorms and being in a dorm. It's just, you know what it is? It's up to you. It's your personal preference. If you plan to dorm, if you plan not to dorm, if you even do college, if you don't do college, you can take our advice. You may well not take our advice, It's just, we're telling you guys all of this so that you kind of have a sense of what our experience was so far and some of the things that you may expect and see within your foreseeable future or in your current state if you are college students, Do you have anything else to add to that?
That's it.
No?
No.
All right, well, I think that will be it for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you on another episode. Bye.
Bye.